Welcome.
The Pathology Innovation Collaborative Community is a regulatory science initiative that aims to facilitate innovations in pathology, as well as advance safety and effectiveness evaluation. The PI Collaborative Community aims to harmonize approaches to speed delivery to patients through collaboration in the pre-competitive space. The PI-CC is open to all stakeholders, public or private, including but not limited to academia, industry, healthcare providers, patients, and advocacy groups. Meetings of this kind are an example of lawful activity under federal antitrust law, because the focus of the meeting is on government action or policy, including the industry's responses or positions taken with respect thereto. However, antitrust monitoring is needed for companies' own protection, since they are direct competitors meeting together. These meetings need to stay within protected subject matters and need to be monitored so that they do not stray off into inappropriate areas, such as pricing and price terms, sales and service territories for particular products, customers and customer territories, each company's individual decisions regarding selection of suppliers or customers, marketing plans and especially future marketing plans or new product offerings, other proprietary or competitively sensitive information. Today's meeting will follow the written agenda, and there will be no discussion of pricing or other prohibited topics. If the discussion veers into those topics, we will terminate the discussion. If you have any questions or concerns about the propriety of a discussion, please raise it immediately, and we will take a break to determine how best to proceed. The Medical Device Innovation Consortium acts as the formal convener, and we will follow their conflict of interest policy. For additional information, we defer to our Code of Conduct and our website, www.pathologyinnovationcc.org. We look forward to moving the field forward.
They will arrive a bit later, but for those who don't know where they are, you're in the Pathology Innovation Collaborative Community Steering Committee meeting, October 2022. Still Earth and still the solar system for now. You know, we're working on innovating that a bit. I start with some great news and the second slide, which is that we have some more project management help. And I think Aubrey may, yes, I think I see her on the call.
Yes,
Aubrey.
hello.
Hey, Aubrey. Do you want to say a few words about you so that you can meet the steering committee here?
Of course. Hi, I'm Aubrey. I started working with Joshin last week. My experiences in hospitality and business management. Over the COVID pandemic, I transitioned careers, and now I'm able to help in other ways in other industries. And I really love getting to know and learn and grow with the clients that I work with. So thank you for bringing me on board.
Perfect. Thank you, Aubrey. So you can see here, this is the same, DigiPath Alliance Gmail. So the emails now converge. And for those who are new here or don't know anything, we're a very interactive collaborative group acting in a pre-competitive space. And currently the project management is handled by 3 people. And, just for those who haven't interacted with them, if you see Ulla or Noor or Aubrey's name under the email, this is the entire project management team. And, we have divided up things into working groups, into individual, projects or individual events. So, this is definitely, needed. As many of you know, we've grown quite a bit. We did a recent member survey of, pinging people and seeing replies, etc. So currently we have 647 members. This is as of yesterday. And I think, although this is part of the business, of course, if you're here by accident, you're welcome to join. Just go to pathologyinnovationcc.org and there's one button up here, join. It's free. You can also leave anytime. In terms of breakdown, you see that currently, about 50% of people self-assign themselves to industry, about a quarter to academia, and then the rest is a large fraction from the government. So we do have, as today, you see Brandon Gallis is here, I see Victor Garcia here, there's Katie. So we have a lot of people joining from the FDA. We have participation from CDC, NIH, and CMS. There's a lot of health providers, and then, smaller fractions that are definitely extremely important. We currently have 1% patient advocacy. Also, interestingly, I think 6 members from the media, etc. So they keep track of what we're doing. And, of course, a lot of people are very active and involved in many things. So I just thought I provide this so that the steering committee knows what's going on. We also have, of course, people who are, for example, in academia or in industry, but participate through their professional societies. I get to that a bit later. So this month, since we're meeting at the end of the month, has been very active. So we start with some of the agency updates, and some of those are actually quite substantial. The first part is that the FDA has created a super office called OTP, the Office of Therapeutic Products. The abbreviation has already caused a little bit of confusion because people think of OTP for tobacco products, but it is not the center for tobacco products. So tobacco products are handled by a center, not by an office. But why I wanted to bring this up is that many or 2 of the changes that will go into effect in January related to the Office of Tissues and Advanced Therapies, meaning cell-based therapies, now have been combined. And under PDUFA 2023 to 2027, there's already the first programs that are explaining why that is. And here's the official Federal Register entry. So the quick summary is that biologic evaluations and research, which is CBER, and OTAT, meaning the Office for Tissues and Advanced Therapies, have been combined into this so-called super office. Given the enormous financial impact as well as therapeutic impact of therapeutic products, it is understandable that deserves a separate and unified approach. Nonetheless, OTP and OPT are, some of the opioid treatment program, etc. I just wanted to mention that abbreviation OTP is used in several contexts. In any case, the next part, which is also related and I think going live as of January 1, 2023, is called a Total Product Life Cycle Advisory Program. Again, a mouthful, especially when abbreviated. This goes through the center or through CDRH, and a lot of these devices and radiologic health total product life cycle management aspects under MDUFA 5, meaning 2023 through 2027, will require slightly different management. So while this hasn't been specified, and I read through this, it's clear that this pilot program is somewhat in anticipation that more TPLC aspects will have to be conducted throughout higher complexity devices. So it's definitely worth looking at it. Currently, there's no guidance out there, but wanted to just outline that this pilot program is there. And a very interesting development, a vendor, don't need to go into details, but has obtained the first ever, and that's really important here, let me add some emphasis, a 510(k) clearance of an anatomic pathology control product. Now, here in this group, we have spoken several times about medical device development tools. Here, we're talking about a control not for a device development, but for ongoing control in clinical practice. That has never been done before. So if we zoom in here quickly, you see this has something to do with HER2, ER, and PR. And you see these levels, high, mid, and low, are expression levels of these specific tools. There's some literature. This will, of course, be shared on the website. But I wanted to take a moment and review this particular clearance. We will reach out to the vendor and ask whether they would be akin to what we've done before with the page prostate algorithm to go through this with us. But what you can tell is that there are basically 3 components of immunoreactivity, high, mid, and low, to serve as a specificity and sensitivity, including a shelf life determination. This is coming directly from the decision summary, to serve basically as an anatomic pathology control. I think the idea has been there, has been out there quite a bit or for quite some time, but this now has been accomplished. So definitely in the field and context of HER2-low, this is I believe, a first part of an entire series of products that will serve for validation and clinical life quality assurance. Next, and you can tell the FDA has been very active over the summer. If that's not true yet, then you will see something very interesting here. So this is just from a few days ago. This is a draft guidance document released on the 17th, which is referred to as the Tissue Agnostic Drug Development Guidance Document. Now, as many of you know, some of the immuno-oncology drugs have been coupled to some, not always, but companion diagnostics. But some of these approvals have been made tissue agnostic, which refers to it doesn't matter what kind of cancer you have, as long as you have cancer. And this is a long-awaited guidance draft guidance document that you can download. We have had a brief call with 3 other people to review this. And the 2 points just to make is that this is in section A, fully based on molecular. This means diseases, and in this case, drug development, is based on the molecular pathophysiology of a cancer. I have never heard that that would be in a guidance document. So if you're talking about molecular biologic revolution, I think this is the regulatory draft guidance manifestation. So that's a pro, especially if you love molecular diagnostics. However, there's also a con, as always. What is not mentioned is cancer diagnostics. So there is a section called diagnostic consideration that immediately refers to that this guidance document is tissue agnostic, meaning ignoring it. However, it simply assumes that the diagnosis of cancer has been rendered. And that is, of course, something risky. So if you think about the future where you may have drug development going on that is tissue agnostic, the question, of course, is how was this clarified that it truly is cancer? So quick summary again, there's a tissue agnostic drug development draft guidance up for commenting. And in this context, since we're talking a lot about pathologic diagnoses, of course, most of the diagnoses currently rendered are rendered using the microscope. So I cross-reference to the SEER 2.0 project that is about to be finished. And, you know, the microscopic way of diagnosing is, of course, tissue, it is, you know, somewhat contradictory. Again, please take a look if you haven't seen it. There is another draft guidance document entitled Characterizing, Collecting, and Reporting Immune-Mediated Adverse Reactions in Cancer Immunotherapeutic Clinical Trials. Now that is a sentence you should be able to say without stuttering. In any case, severe events in immuno-oncology are critical. This is currently in the version 6 to 7 of the common terminology criteria for adverse events. Some of those are, for example, graft versus host reactions and, you know, very severe reactions. This is important for clinical trial design and also for post-market surveillance. The current draft guidance immediately links the two. So within the Cancer Therapeutic Evaluation Program, the CTCAE guidelines are directly quoted, which is of course important for grading of adverse events. So this is again agency collaboration manifesting here in a draft guidance. So if you're working in this space, very important. I know Brendan is on the call today. He has done something really fascinating. There's a group within the FDA which does continuous medical education, regulatory science education, and he has presented the development of a data set related to the TILs. If you're not familiar with the work, you can look in the Truthing group or his publications. A lot of people were present. I think the peak count I saw was close to 100. but fluctuating, of course, since the reviewers and the entire team that was listening is of course very busy. Briefly, why I think this is worth mentioning. So aside from the high throughput truthing project, if you're wondering how are the people in the FDA learning about what's going on in the diagnostic field, I think this is one of the ways to disseminate this. And I was very happy that Brendan included some of the data collection platforms that are directly using digital pathology, which is, of course, as outlined before, very important to serve as the key element for diagnosing cancer. Thanks for posting this, Kate. So why I thought it's important for you to know this is there are probably very few people within the agency that know about all the different projects going on and how they relate to external collaborators and internal efforts or reviews. So I think it's definitely helpful that also has presented there and that Brendan took the time to, emphasize some of these things. Brent, I don't know, feel like commenting on this or should I just move on?
No, it was great opportunity to get that kind of exposure with a new audience. It was the Oncology Center of Excellence. It wasn't a training group. OCE is, and that's a diffuse office that has people identified that sit in many different centers even, but are identified as this kind of umbrella office. And so the audience was definitely different than I'm used to, and they immediately asked why I didn't use IHC. I wish I had been a little bit more ready, but we finally got to the point that this is about using pathologists as the reference standard, which is common. We see it in radiology, although it's the radiologists, not pathologists, and ophthalmology, and industry wants to use the clinicians that are interpreting the images to provide the reference standard. But there's it's fraught with a lot of variability and issues that need to be addressed. And that's what the project's about.
Perfect. Thank you, Brendan. All right, moving on. There's a couple of legislative updates. Many of the legislative changes that we discussed last time, I think we don't have to go into details. One thing that came directly from the Biden-Harris administration that I believe is a definite must-read for 2022, which is some of the announcements related to advances in tech accountability, which the Biden-Harris administration have been quite active. This is from this month, and it's entitled The Blueprint for a Bill of Rights, but an AI Bill of Rights. So this is an idea that provides a blueprint for making automated solutions more safe for the American people. Now, I read through it. It's very dense. There's a lot of different aspects here. I wanted to highlight two. The entire document is split up into 5 different focus areas that are listed here. So safety and effectiveness of systems, of course, data privacy, not surprising. But the algorithmic discrimination protections is something I believe very, very progressive. Notification and explanations, which of course goes to explainable AI. And then the section human alternatives, considerations, and fallback is extremely important, getting to the general concept that I believe the FDA is also working under, which is, if a human makes the final call, or what if rules have to be defined. One element I wanted to mention, which is of course resource cognition, and the health and health insurance technologies, such as medical AI systems, are specifically provided. So while some of these systems are about, financial operations and, elements that people generally associate with reimbursement consideration or the revenue cycle, I thought it is extremely important, and it's highlighted here as well, that algorithms or predictive models used to support clinical decision-making are extremely and specifically pointed out. So, while a lot of people think when they hear pathologist just about the pizza eating person on the autopsy table, I think clinical decision-making and diagnostics being specifically mentioned in the October 2022 AI Bill of Rights is very important. And I just wanted to briefly point this out. Last element in terms of the legislative updates is that there was a letter by Dr. Gottlieb kind of emphasizing or re-emphasizing the need for PDUFA and potentially the VALID Act, which was published in JAMA Health Forum. So if you haven't seen it, please take a look. It's of course not clear what happens towards the end of the year with those add-on bills, but I just wanted to point to it. Let me just see if Noor is on. I don't think I can see everyone. Noor, are you around? Maybe a bit later, but I can come back to this. There's some MDIC updates. If Noor, who emailed me that she might be a little bit late, can join a bit later. Quick update from some of the professional societies, a quick excursion. I think I see Mary Kennedy here. And one of the big new things that, I don't know, Mary, if you want to say a few words about this, but there's a new council in CAP, College of American Pathologists. I don't know, Mary, do you want to say two,
Sure.
3 sentences?
Yeah, sure, I'd be
Awesome.
happy to.
Thank you.
We're very happy to announce that the Council on Informatics and Pathology Innovation has been formed. Our first meeting is going to be in about a week and a half. This council is a huge step for the college because what we're doing is we're putting all of the technology committees that currently exist under this new council so that we have a very direct vote and presence at the board now. So Joe, I don't know if you want to say where you're going next week, but you know.
Yeah, so I was very glad. Thanks, Mary. So if you haven't seen this, you can look for CIPI or CIPI and or the tweets. But I was very happy that I was allowed to present what PICC is doing to this council. So Mary, I think I owe you the presentation. So you see it's ready. I will email it after this meeting, but I just wanted to mention that I will be presenting the work that we have done and are planning to do to this new council, you know, with CAP, and I'm very glad that CAP is recognizing this need for continued and, you know, effective pathology innovation or innovation in laboratory medicine, of course, as well.
Right.
The presentation will be shared on our website as well, but, you know, it's most of the data is available on our website anyway. It's just like putting all of it together. One other thing that 2 people have emailed me, which also is from CAP, which was published in the archives, which is a summary and I believe a great summary of the mismatch repair and macrosatellite instability testing for immune checkpoint inhibitor therapy. And this comes from, you know, a collaboration between CAP and AMP, so the Association for Molecular Pathology. They also have a meeting next week in Phoenix. So definitely a lot of meetings and progress. And given the heavy emphasis, as you already noticed in this meeting about checkpoint inhibitor therapy, this is a timely and very comprehensive guideline that I wanted to briefly point out. Then next update from societies, of course, the Digital Pathology Association, DPA. I see Esther's on the call. There was a meeting, Path Visions, Las Vegas. I don't know if someone wants to say a few words about that, how that went. I don't know, Esther, do you want to say a few words or?
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, good, because I have some problems with sound. No, I think it was, in one word, fantastic. A little bit, elaborate a little bit on it. There were great presentations, great contents. Also a lot about reimbursement. There was some talk how to use the CPT codes. There's also a podcast coming out on that, working also together with CAP on that. So that was Dr. Miles who was giving the presentation. On top of that, we also had like great new information of what is coming out there with digital pathology. But most and for all, I wanted to highlight that there was such a fantastic vibe. People were sharing knowledge, and digital pathology is really taking off now. We've been waiting for this and working for this for a long time. What you can see, it's really taking off. People see how beneficial this can be for bringing new innovation to patients. So it was fantastic to see that.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think look how happy everyone is. I think that was really, really good. I only heard great things, and I believe that there's definitely momentum in the field. So thank you for organizing and and the quick summary here. Update from AJCP, which is also important. This is a 2021 wage survey of medical laboratories in the United States, which, you mentioned CPT codes, you mentioned updates, you mentioned reimbursement. We already spoke about this several times. It's very important to get this data out there. If you haven't seen it, I think it's definitely important for many of the cost calculations, etc. So this survey-based data is definitely important. I have one quick update from the ADAS group. If you haven't seen this just came out. This is an open letter to the US Congress about ensuring remote diagnostics for pathologists. The group here is 75 pathologists from the Association for Directors of Anatomic and Surgical Pathology Programs. So all of these authors are directors of programs. So it was done by ADASP, and 75 members joined this open letter that has two main purposes. One is to ensure that the regulatory exceptions during the public health emergency will be maintained for now, but also important, the statutes governing this, which is clear, are over 34 years old. And the idea would be that, the Public Health Service Act should be updated, amended, or modified to account for the 34 years of medical progress. That's, of course, very controversial. Since I was allowed to author this alongside Erica Bracamonte and 73 other co-authors, I won't go into details, but I wanted to point this out, that's definitely on the agenda. One other professional organization, one that serves the world, has posted several of the jobs. I believe that the closing date has been extended. Just wanted to briefly reiterate this here. Next topic is ctDNA. As you know, draft guidance has been released. A working group has been tackling this as a project. And related to some of the recent meetings, I think 2 points I wanted to make briefly. There was a big Precision Oncology Congress in Amsterdam, and there was ESMO, and many of those meetings have reiterated that ctDNA is definitely not just a trend, it's definitely going to be here to stay. Several studies have even demonstrated increased diagnostic utility when combined, either with multiple types of CF or ctDNA methodologies, or when combined with tissue-based diagnostics. So it is more like a complementary approach that seems to be lasting. So I just wanted to point this out because the convergence of diagnostics is definitely happening. So will probably not be long until the first papers of AI combining tissue and ctDNA will emerge. And that was definitely one of the things at this meeting. Of course, the current draft guidance does not entail that yet, the combination of ctDNA and other diagnostics. So definitely going to be a topic at our next work group meeting. And if you want to join, please email. There were 2 things that people have emailed me about that I should repeat this. About the diversion and inclusion components. The first part is the Human Rights Campaign, hrc.org. This is a resource. There's a lot of tools and kits as well as PDFs on that web resource. Let me just share this with everyone, just in case you haven't had a chance to take a look at it. It's definitely helpful and it's highly practical. And the other part, which is a comment on an FDA docket, which is very important as well, that is provided here. Again, this is related to the FDA's diversity plan. And I just wanted to re-share these two resources with the group until the website is updated. We're a little bit behind schedule, but it will come. And the third resource, which is also very interesting, is a cognitive biases book. It will be on the website with two aspects. One is, of course, biases related to, some of the common topics related to diversity and inclusion, but there's also a bonus chapter for algorithmic biases that influence our cognitive decision-making, which is in part also related to, some of the so-called project implicit that shows a lot of these, age, transgender, disability, weight, religion, sexuality tools. If you haven't been to this and you want to see a quantitative measure of how biased we all are, please take a test. It won't take long. It's a very interesting platform and has been used for quite some time. And I just thought I wanted to share that again as a resource. Patient advocacy, there's one important update from one of the groups that we work with, which is the Anatomical Pathology Patient Interest Association, or APIA. And APIA has presented and expanded their TOPS program, which is the so-called Tissue Optimization Pre-Analytic Standardization Program. You can find it at their website, which I will also paste in the chat. You can click on it, and one of the things that we have discussed many times in the working group for pre-analytics is that you have to have individual solutions, protocols, and handling guidelines, which they provide as an infographic for free download, by the way. But you have to account for the advocacy groups, of course, that's why we're discussing it here, but also laboratory personnel, the oncologists, the surgeons, the nurses, or the OR nurses, and a full presentation for pathologists. This is also in collaboration with the National Society for Histotechnology. So they offer this as a continuous medical education program. And if you haven't seen this, please give them a big, high five or send them a kind email. If you're running a lab or if you're encountering pre-analytic variability, I think this should be the go-to resource to say, hey, we're moving things forward in terms of standardization. Don't know if anyone has seen this, but it's definitely a fantastic resource, and coming from APIA, this will be impactful. Okay, resources. It's been very active, and two amazing resources I wanted to share. One is from NIH in the branch of implementation sciences is the National Center for Advancing Translational Sciences. And within this group, there's a specific resource about how to translate things, which is called Drug Discovery, Development, and Deployment Maps, or D4 or 4D program. And they have put together the entire translational spectrum of how to get drugs developed and deployed. And of course, part and parcel of that is two things: one, diagnostics, and regulatory approach. So this is a very comprehensive 4D map. Let me just paste this in the chat as well, so you have this. But within this, the regulatory compliance strategy, how to build cohorts, what is the lead optimization, what goes for FDA review, how to approach this is all mapped out in a, I believe, very comprehensive and detailed fashion. So if you're working in a given space and you considering trial support, this is extremely helpful to map out what, where, and how your specific tool or approach would be beneficial. I think this was probably work of many years that is now coming to light. From a translational research perspective, this is an extremely relevant and, as you can see here, on a Creative Commons license resource, which I find extremely helpful and beneficial. So I wanted to point that out as a resource. A new project that was triggered in part through CAP and two other collaborators is an initiative that is led by Ila Singh, which is it's called a True Lab initiative, which stands for Test Renaming for Understanding and Utilization. which gets a little bit into the realm of coding and CPT codes, because what a test name and what a test meaning is in part, of course, parcel of the standard naming convention behind that. Now, there are many codes and codification or nomenclature systems, but here the question is whether understandable lab test names can help and streamline and avoid some misutilization, which is of course going to be very, very tricky and relevant when it comes to applying AI tools to tissues. And so that's where the merge of many of these elements is. So look out, we will probably issue a project around the True Lab and how to align that with some of the interests in PyCC. Right, last part is publications. Of course, there have been many, and a few you may have seen, so I will go through this quickly so we have some time for open discussion and communication. A paper by Chengquan Chen from the Faisal Mahmood group is a quick search tool for and in whole slide images. This is very relevant when it comes to working with multi-tera or petabyte data sets and how to enable search within data sets like that quickly is definitely an interesting approach. So please take a look. It was published in Nature Biomedical Engineering. Another resource that I would put into the realm of review, it is a review article, but why I wanted to point this out is what Esther just said. We're approaching that we get really traction with digital pathology. So a lot of departments or divisions will have the issue of justifying this. What I thought this paper does an amazing job with by Vipul is they take us through the exact components of a workflow, how to make it more attractive for an academic medical center or more from a clinical routine perspective, and what to do with the data, because the convergence of value across those different use cases is beautifully illustrated here. And they use AI powered tools, of course, to scale this, so to make it attractive. Great illustrations and great approach of summarizing this and distilling it down. So I could totally see this working very well for hospital leadership, etc., to explain to people if someone says, hey, what is a good resource? I definitely handed this to 4 of our payers to illustrate, hey, what is this hype about this digital pathology stuff all about, and what does it mean? So I wanted to point this out. We have a couple of more scientific papers. A paper that just appeared I think shortly after our last steering committee meeting tackles a very interesting thing between pancreatic and cholangiocarcinoma. For those who are not aware, those 2 cancers, other than by anatomic site, can almost not be distinguished. And here a large international consortium tackled this in an attempt to clarify, are we dealing with a pancreatic cancer that's just very close to the bile duct, or is it truly a bile duct cancer? And a definitely relevant and super challenging question. So please take a look at that paper. One group led by some of the people from the Personalized Medicine Coalition has tackled some of the pharmacogenetics associations related to FDA approvals related to those tests. It's very complicated. We don't have a working group yet on pharmacogenetics, but this group put together sort of an idea on how to implement this. It's kind of a diagnostic test that has direct implications for therapy. Somewhat hard to regulate because it shows overlap between analytics and diagnostic testing versus direct therapeutic implication, yet it is not a companion diagnostic. So this paper does a good job in outlining this, including illustrating the support by current published evidence with the FDA approvals. The next paper is also an AI tool, in this case for quantification and identification of the histopathologic features of eosinophilic esophagitis. I thought that this is, at least from the bigger papers that came out, another example that, you know, AI is not just about cancer diagnostics. This is a very relevant disease in, you know, many adults, but also in children. You see some of the people here are also members of PyCC and, you know, very active. So definitely a big shout out to the group for tackling one of these non-cancer issues that requires a high effort in terms of workup. So I can definitely see some downstream efficiency consequences for this. A molecular paper related to metastatic castration-resistant prostate cancer in relation to BRCA mutations and rucaparib, which is, you know, a PARP inhibitor. And that's the fact. This is a platinum priority publication that came out, roughly speaking, a week or two ago, which is the emergence of BRCA reversion mutations. Oops, sorry, I jumped here a bit. Apologies. And that was not believed to be the case, yet it is relevant in a significant subset of patients, which I believe is not currently included in the approval, but it's definitely emerging. So I believe that that will have direct diagnostic implications as well. A paper by Heyman and McCudden shows an overview over, you know, they call it the rise of machines, so AI in the clinical laboratory. Two things I wanted to point out is the clinical versus the anatomic laboratory are usually distinct. It's different sections, so to speak, in most departments. They do a great job of illustrating that when it comes to data and utilization, that actually converges. And the other part that I thought was really important to point out is that they developed this very nice rubric or hierarchy of AI concepts and tools. So for example, is it using computer vision or natural language processing? I know several people on the call here, including Kevin, Keith, Esther, you know, we all spoke about this before, but, you know, having a good visual on this is definitely helpful, especially when thinking about new technologies. A great paper by Claudia Bellini about utilization of AI and big data in clinical laboratories is outlining what I thought is a very unique approach, not only showing the data, but how they obtained it by providing the specific survey question that they administered across multiple laboratories in Italy. I know several people here on the call and in PyCC have started to tackle this problem by building out surveys and having this as an additional resource, even if you want to accomplish smaller scale elements, what your workforce is thinking about it, or what, you know, the workstations look like, etc. I thought this is a great paper or resource to have. This paper here I thought is extremely interesting because it tackles a specific form of cancer, but in patients with metastasis to a specific site. While that concept is not new, combining it is kind of a prelude to what I believe we will see much more in 2023, which is that people start tackling the disease based on the anatomic location using spatially resolved methods. So here, this is spatial transcriptomics in cancer cases, in this case, lung cancer, that metastasize to a specific site. Of course, brain metastasis is most likely detrimental and immediate or warrants immediate treatment. So I believe this is sort of a forecast what might happen. So look out for those papers. The last review, which is great, is big data in basic and translational cancer research. So kind of outlining what some of the current state of the art is and how to harness big data for both the basic and translational side. So definitely a comprehensive study and overview. So we're at the end of this presentation. For those of you who don't know, our next steering committee is at the last Wednesday in November. So that's 11/30, 2022. And I hope we have plenty of time for other topics and or discussion. So with that, I open it up to the group. Questions, comments. Let me see what the chat says. Oh yeah, the EDAP. Yep, let me just share this here. Thank you for pasting. So this is definitely the overview that Brandon has presented today. Kate, did you want to say a few words about that as well, or?
I think Brandon covered it. Thank you.
All right. Other points? Who hasn't said anything? Joe, good seeing you. Hey.
Yeah, good seeing you too. We have to catch up. I just wanted to give a plug. Let me put it in the chat. It's great. Digital pathology is really taken off. I just wanted to give a plug for a workshop that I'm doing on behalf of API with Mike Feldman and I co-lead. And it's the Digital Pathology AI workshop. And this year it's still virtual. Next year we're going to go physical. But the advantage of it is that everything's recorded. And my intent this year was to bring in basically faculty across the United States, Stanford, Mount Sinai, us, just a lot of different experience, UCSF, just to give a lot of different experience of how to really do digital. And so I'm hoping that, people on the call get spread around. And let me just put this in the chat if I can do it. Here we go. Should be there. And it also for trainees as well. I worked it out with Nova and Grace at API that if you have a lot of trainees, API can also offer discounts for the trainees, the registration and stuff. So I know it's very hard to get informatics education. This provides an opportunity for that. So hopefully I provided the right link, but just making a shameless plug for next week.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. I think it's the right one, right? It's at the University of Pennsylvania.
Well, it's virtually hosted by virtual. Basically, it's just going to be talks across with a lot of different institutions across the country and Europe as well.
Oh, perfect. This looks very, very good. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for letting me plug.
No, it's very good to have that. Plus, if they're a trainee, discounts, that's always good to hear.
Yeah.
Other things, Eric, I know we have a follow-up, and Esther from the payer strategy, right? Gonna have some time to do this. I can try to summarize the MDIC updates because I know Noor is probably not able to join. That's the stuff that I wasn't able to discuss, so I can definitely provide this. So as you know, MDIC is working heavily on cybersecurity. There's some synthetic data and patient modules, etc. So there was still advertised 2-part multi-day threat modeling virtual boot camps. Let me just quickly put this in the chat as well, just so you have all the links here before it's up on the website. The cybersecurity part, the industry benchmarking report, which some of you want to have when it comes to their own sort of assessments and benchmarks, that may help a lot. There's a next-gen sequencing element on how to make that more accurate. So this is regarding sequencing-based cancer diagnostics. So also the theme of, possibly getting some diagnoses done without necessarily having histology. There's a medical extended reality live online series. I believe, it's stated here, it's LinkedIn Live. So this you can find on the mdic.org website. And, there's like 3 other things that are coming up, which I know took a lot of time to plan. So the so-called predetermined change control plan, which a lot of people are wondering, how will we ever, regulate an evolving performance of an AI tool? And the question is whether that change control plan is predetermined or self-evolving. So this is one approach. Then MDIC, heavy emphasis, of course, on the medical devices. Question is how to help with 5G-enabled healthcare technologies. And one, they call it CMNS, not CMS, that's Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services here. This is computational modeling and simulation of some case studies on how to, help with modeling some of the, devices and challenges that we encounter. So this is coming up all this year. So MDIC is also very busy and active. And so here's Noor's and Jitesh's email in case you have questions about it. They couldn't unfortunately not make it, but definitely wanted to emphasize that MDIC is definitely tackling some of these innovations in the lab and diagnostic space. Keith,
Joe,
good seeing you.
good to see you too. Sorry, I'm in the dark here. Is it okay if I put in a shameless plug as well?
Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
presenting next week at a symposium sponsored by Apridi in Cambridge, and then there's a companion session in San Diego the following week. But the title is "Unlock the Power of Digital Pathology." Representatives from Aphora and Gilead. So it's going to be kind of pharma focused and related to my role at Ultivue. I wouldn't put it out there as a commercial thing unless it was something I thought that would be of educational value. So I'm happy to post that in the chat if everybody's cool with that.
No,
Guys cool with that?
absolutely. Yeah, I think so. And, you know, I can definitely also put it on our events calendar and, you know, definitely helpful. So.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Erico, how are you?
Doing well. Came back from NSH in cab.
Wonderful. I don't know if you saw it, but I mentioned the APS TOPS program as, you know, tackling the pre-analytic variability. Don't know, have you heard a lot of feedback on that? I hope only good feedback, right?
Yeah, we presented the poster at NSH, which was great. Hopefully it will be presented soon on the web pages. And it's a first step, but then we have our collaboration still open that we have to tackle at a certain point, which is then converting, you know, pre-analytics to results in imaging.
Oh, absolutely. I think the, you know, pre-analytics work group, in a way, to some people has direct implications, and probably the most, you know, if we apply the garbage in, garbage out principle, right? That's definitely always true.
Yes.
But it's also extremely challenging, right? To change people's H&E stains, workflows, paraffin embedding, right? Those are things that are heavily and locally firmly ingrained into the practice. So I think that is tackling that is absolutely important. So thanks a lot for doing that.
Yep.
Okay. If there are no other raised hands or points, comments, suggestions, I think we reached the end of the steering committee. We will post the results as soon as possible on the website, and I hope to see all of you plus a few more next month, and thanks a lot for joining. Bye-bye. Good seeing you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Ciao.
you, Joe. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thanks.